Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Armageddon. Today we're going to be trying out the new Final Fantasy pre-constructed Brawl decks that are available in the Arena store. And we'll start with Aerith Last Ancient, a green-white or Selesnya life gain deck. Now they're pretty much playing all with cards from the Final Fantasy set and a couple new cards from Final Fantasy Commander like Tataru, Taru, and Waka, and of course Aerith Last Ancient. So, not as synergistic a life gain deck as you would get if you built it from scratch and played with cards available from other sets, but we'll see how it does. I won't go over the whole deck in detail, so let's jump in some games and see how the deck does. To quote another great content creator, on we go. On the draw, I've got Garnet, but that's about it, and only 2 lands. I think we can do better. Let's take our free mulligan. Alright, they've got Temple Garden in here, that's great. Stiltskin. Not sure how great Stiltskin's ability to give opponent control of my permanents will be. Stiltskin would be good. I guess I could have considered him in the Iroh deck I featured, because he can make Iroh better. Anyway, let's try this. Am I willing to trade Stiltskin for Anklebiter? I think I want to save Chocobo Kick for Vraska. Keeping my creatures around for Rosa would also be pretty nice. Opponent takes it. Alright, we draw land 4, that's useful. So opponent elects not to draw a card, so I don't get the treasure token. We'll take 1. Then move the draw. I think I'm still willing to trade. I guess with Malakir Coldblade, I don't want to trade Stillskin for Typhoid Rats. Chocobo Kick is sorcery. Opponent ramps. They're going all in on Death Touch creatures. So they could have Finn the Fangbearer in here. could give opponent to Taru with Stillskin, but if I do that, when I draw a card, they get a treasure. Actually, no, I guess it's during my turn, so I'm not sure how good Taru is going to be. Don't have any creatures to get back with Aerith right now. Holocene Behemoth. Oh, this picks up 2 +1/+1 counters. Alright, we've got it some cleric synergies. No attacks. There's Raskin. Opponent reconsiders an attack. They go for it. I think we take 2. Diamond Weapon. Too bad we don't have any way of getting these into the graveyard. Like, Town Greeter would be good. Definitely wish this were instant speed. Let's get Fat Chocobo down here. And then next turn, opponent's got something they can do at instant speed. Season of Growth. Dion. Alright, my creatures have Trample. They get an Angelo. And then I could Chocobo kick the Cold Blade if I pick up a land. Alright, hoping to draw land so my Chocobo can attack. Opponent's got their own fat Chocobo. Ooh, that's nice. That's enough for opponent. Alright. So, opponent's deck was pretty impressive there. Vrask is nice with any creatures with triggered abilities or entered abilities, if you make them into treasures, as we saw. Fortunately for us, opponent didn't draw any removal, which probably would have been game-winning for them. Anyway, on we go. On the play, I've got a Death Touch creature, which is great with Chocobo Kick. And I can cycle Balam T-Rexor to put it in the graveyard for Aerith. Although I don't have any life gain currently in this hand, but I think this is still keepable. Alright, I don't really want to trade the Grand Pulse Ochu here, because I want it to get rid of Vivi with Chocobo Kick, and possibly have it as an attacker with Summon Chocomog. So we'll pass the turn and cycle Balam T-Rexor. Opponent attacks with the Sprite, we'll take one. And then I can fetch... It's great that they've got both Temple Garden and Lush Portico in here. They also have one of the fetch lands, although just the green-white one. Let's get Temple Garden. Oh, okay. Alright then. Well, I'm not sure what that was about. We'll take it, on we go. Let's try and get another proper game in with this deck. Alright. I didn't really see a lot of equipment, so I'm not sure Adalbert's all that good. Steiner, I guess, is how I should be calling him. Garnet, I think that's a good turn to play, and then I've got SideQuest, Catch a Fish, and Sarah. So I think this is keepable. Alright, we can even play Temple Garden on one. One's got Badger Mole Cub. There's Toth. Battle menu hits creatures with power 4 or greater. And then I think we play side quest, catch a fish, since that might turn into a land at Rampus. No attacks. Mixed Lotus. Oh! Oh, that was an interesting interaction. So unfortunately, side quest doesn't flip. So I can either play two drops or Rosa. Rosa blocks pretty well here.
Secret tunnel.
I see opponents got the audio clips. Also didn't see a whole lot of sagas to go with Garnet. So yeah, I would say that the downside of... And they ramp into Vorinclex. Helps them hit land drops. I can destroy Vorinclex with battle menu at least. Opponent's going to be making a ton of mana. Alright, so I get to put Stiltskin into hand and transform side quest. You hit land, Windswept Heap. Alright. So I've got to get rid of Vorinclex. So I could battle menu Vorinclex, play Serapheren. And then what to do with Windswept Heap? Do I fetch Surveil Land or just fetch land for... Once we transform Esper Origins, that'll be good with Garnet. Yeah, maybe we do get Stiltskin down. So let's fetch Plains. Opponent impatient, apparently. At least they're using a cool animation. Alright, opponent's got a ton of mana here. And sure, why not just play a 6-mana spell? No blocks. Alright, I need to find a way to get rid of the boulder here. Crossroads Village isn't it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So I can play Aerith, Esper Origins, and Steiner. Don't have any creatures to get back with Aerith. No, Villiers could be good. Alright. I think we want to get rid of the boulder and not the land here. And Aerith gets back Rosa. Alright. Well, not liking our chances this game. Do they not draw any creatures? Alright, snow. Could sacrifice the food to put a +1/+1 counter on everyone. Let's flashback Esper Origins here. I don't think we want either of those. Alright, Sausage Chocobo. No attacks. Opponents regained a bunch of life thanks to Primeval Bounty. Yeah, I don't think we're winning this game. Okay, good game. Alright. Let's take a quick look at the deck. Alright. So, I think this deck could use some improvements. I do like the mana base in that it's got a fetch land and then Temple Garden and Lush Portico, so I will give it that. But it's not nearly as synergistic as it could be, just because it's using cards exclusively from Final Fantasy. And then definitely also needed more interaction. Like, we definitely needed a some kind of board wipe or something in that last game. And there's no, as far as I can tell, no artifact or enchantment removal, which we also really needed in that last game. So I think that the base Foundation deck, at least as you can get it in the store, needs some upgrading before it's really going to be able to hold its own. So if you've got a lot of the Final Fantasy cards already, it might still be worth getting just to pick up a couple extra ones because it won't cost you that many gems. But if you don't have a lot of Final Fantasy gems, maybe don't pick up the Aerith Last Ancient deck. Anyway, let's go on to try another one. Alright. Emmett Selch, another Graveyard Synergy deck. This one lets you cast instants and sorceries out of your graveyard if your opponent loses life. I don't see a lot of ways of making the opponent lose life without having to attack. Like, you can ping them with the wizard from cornered by black mages. But that's about it. You're pretty much relying on combat to deal damage. So I'm not sure how well built this deck really is. I think that finding ways to damage the opponent without having to attack would be a much better strategy. Anyway, we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. Again, reasonable mana base. More of the fetch lands would be better, but at least it's got Polluted Delta and then the Shock land and Surveil land, so that's good. We could also try milling the opponent, although you pretty much have to be a dedicated mill deck to win with mill and brawl, since the decks are 100 cards, and I don't see a lot of other mill in here, so I'm not sure what Jadur is doing in the deck list. I think I'd rather have Midgar, because we've got some sacrifice fodder like Hektize. Anyway, let's give it a try and see how it does. On we go. On the draw, Sleep Magic, not the greatest removal against Go Shintai. I've got Marlborough to find Swamp. I can even find a non-basic Swamp. I think we can try this. Alright, there's Crossroads Village to fix our mana. So let's play Sage's Newlist here. Sadly, combat tutorial doesn't let me attack past the Go Shintai. So opponent can play their commander next turn. They'll fight on. I think we hold up Swallowed by Leviathan here. Poison the Waters could be a good way of getting rid of all the shrine tokens. And then we might as well attack. Opponent takes it, so we get in 2 free damage. Interesting. Not what I would expect from a shrine deck. I think we'll use our mana efficiently and counter that. Want to draw land and want to draw Jill. And opponent's tapped out, so we don't need to put any cards in the graveyard. I guess actually Jill will get milled here. Unless we play combat tutorial. Opponent chumps. Plays Go Shintai. Mills us for 3. Ultimecia. I'm a bit surprised the opponent chumped there. He plays Go Shintai. They keep up 3 mana rather than milling me. Go-Go. I'm not sure how well built around Go-Go this deck is. Sage's Newlist is a cleric. I think we'll play Circle of Power to try and hit our land drop. Although I guess I can Surveil with Ultimecia. And opponent milling me plays right into Ultimecia. I guess opponent can mill me, so I should just surveil these into the graveyard. No attacks. Alright. Alright, now opponent mills me. Alright, I can summon Leviathan. Although that's kind of bad with my sleep magic. Got lots of cards in my graveyard to transform Ultimecia. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lands. So I've got 2 to go. Ultimecia's a Warlock. Let's draw. Not sure what to do. This does get rid of my wizard. And I could attack with Ultimecia, but I think I'd rather transform her. And now there's a bug. Opponent gets back the Spirit Oasis with Go Shintai. And draws a bunch of cards. Alright, that's a problem. One, two, three, four, five. So, still a bit short of transforming Ultimecia. Anything worthwhile getting back with Evil Reawakened? I definitely want to draw land. I think Salvagers can go. So I might cast Memories Returning. Alright. Well, I'm definitely getting a land here. So I don't need to pick a land first. Alright, Ultimishu down. We can get Ultimishu back with Evil Reawakened, although opponent can just ping her with the Honden again. Not as many shrines as I expected, although Ocean Tie of Shared Purpose is going to be a problem. I can bounce everything, all the creatures with Summon Leviathan. One's tapped out. Not liking our chances here. I've got 57 cards left. Opponent's got a ton of mana. Yeah, I don't think we're winning this one. Alright, so not a great first start. Let's try again. Down we go. On the draw. Only 2 lands. I think this is a mulligan. Sleep Magic. Doesn't work well against Toph. Alright, only islands, but we've got Dreams to look for Swamp, and Jill as interaction. Eject could also be useful. We'll try this. Alright, so far I have to say that the pre-constructed deck so far needs some help, because they're not as synergistic as a well-built synergistic deck would be. So if you face a synergistic deck like the Go Shintai deck, which even wasn't that synergistic, or a Toph Earthbending deck, looking for Swamp, so I think we ditch the Wyvern. Alright, I can cycle Ice Plan and fetch Black Source with that. Alright, let's counter Toph here. I've got 2 cards in the graveyard, so I don't need to pitch any others. Both of these have flashbacks, so it's kind of nice to surveil them into the graveyard. Alright. And then we'll cycle Ice Plan, fetch Watery Grave, play Heck Dies. Opponent's discards Atrax's Fall. Not very good against us, I don't think. It would be more efficient to play Ultimecia. Bouncing their land with Jill does seem kind of nice. But I think let's make the mana efficient play here. And then Ether. Kind of like that. I guess I've got land at hand, so let's draw Ether first. No attacks. Alright, they could attack with Boomy to make the forest a 5/5. No, this only targets non-land permanents. So opponent can play Toph here. Okay. Well, I guess we're taking a hit for 9. Opponent gets back Noxus Revival. We'll take 9 here. Alright, so opponent can Atrax's Fall our Eject. Our Ether. But we can use it at instant speed to copy a spell. And it adds mana to cast instants or sorceries. So I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, so I can bounce something with Jill. Bouncing non-land permanents is definitely a bit of a problem here. Alright, let's put Polluted Delta and Island into the graveyard. Because I'm likely to draw a land off eject. Opponent replays Boomy. Alright, opponent did not use Atrax's Fall. So maybe we flash back Dreams of Laguna. I'll draw a Swamp. Alright, I've got the mana to... but I'm a card short. I can copy Resentful Revelation or Evil Reawakened and get back Ice Flan, Dragoon's Wyvern. Sure. An Ice Flan at least targets creatures. Don't want to trade Ultimecia here. Now, Ultimecia now further away from... They kill my Wyvern with Atrax's Fall. Fight on. Let's do this main phase to try and hit my land drop. Alright, and then... let's eject again. And we get the discounts. Alright, so we can transform Ultimecia. Ice Flan can still get in there. Opponent chumps. And then... I think we flip Ultimecia here. Alright, gotta exile 8 cards. I can get instants and sorceries back with Emmet Selch. I still kind of want to keep creatures, because I've got Evil Reawakened that I can get back, and I've got Fight On in hand. I think Syncopate... Alright, overkill. Then I've got overkill to punish double blocks. Alright. And then I don't really want to cast... Maybe Resentful Revelation is fine, because I can still hold up overkill. Let's hold up overkill. Or off, I think. There's Toph. And that's enough for opponents. Alright. So this time we faced a less lucky Toph deck and came out on top. We also had some relatively decent draws. Anyway, so we'll take a look at the deck. Alright, so what do we think of this Event Selch deck? Again, I think that it's made up of only cards from the Final Fantasy set is a bit of a drawback, in that there are a lot of creatures that I don't think I would want to play in an optimal build of this deck, and not enough instants and sorceries, because you're working with just what's in the Final Fantasy set. So I suspect that that's going to be our verdict with all three decks, but we'll try the Lock Coal deck and see how that goes. So, let's take a look at that deck. Alright. So Lock is an evasive threat who lets you play cards from the opponent's deck if you mill one. It's only cast a spell, so you can't play lands that you mill, but you get a treasure if you mill a land. Some interesting card choices. Nibelheim of Flame. That will depend on how good you have large other creatures, so the Regalia, Kuja if you flip him, the side quest if you flip that, could probably use some bigger creatures for a Nibelheim Flame. Anyway, we'll try this one out and see how it goes. On the draw, I think if I had one more land, I would be happier keeping this hand. Summon Brynhildr could help hit land. Facing off against Kren Undercity Dreamer, I think that's Miles Morales in the paper Spider-Man set. So this looks like a counter synergy deck. I think we take our mulligan. Still only 2 lands, but I've got World Map and Arcane Signet. I can find land 3 and Arcane Signet for ramp. No sacrifice fodder to go with Sephiroth. But I think we'll still try this. Alright, we draw lane 3. Opponent doesn't have a turn 1 play, so we can play Arcane Signet and then sacrifice World Map to find a basic land. I think we do that. Chainweb Arachneer, a Spider. I didn't see a lot of equipment to go with the item shopkeep. I do have Genji Glove in hand. But right now, item shopkeep is looking more like sacrifice fodder for Sephiroth than a creature I'm particularly interested in keeping around. Alright, I am guessing they named Spider here. And they do. We'll take 1. We'll fetch Mountain. We draw another land. I could play Gaius von Belsar, but I feel like opponent sacrifices Chainweb Arachneer. Again, I'd prefer to have item shopkeep out as something to sacrifice. So let's play Lock. And then end of turn I can surveil. Alright, so far opponent can block Lock with any of their creatures. Fetch Raucous Theater. Don't need another land. Draw another land anyway. Alright. lock is not getting through here. So I could play Genji Glove and then next turn equip the glove, play Shopkeep. No attacks. Well, that was a bit of a disaster. There's Kren. Well, lock's not getting through. Queen Brawny. I don't know why they didn't just say lock can't be blocked. I feel like that wouldn't be too much. Let's see here. I've got 6 mana. Item Shopkeep, not looking too good now that my equipment's been destroyed. Queen Brawny. I don't have any non-creature spells. Yep, they sacrifice the creature they can escape. No attacks. Alright. Even Nibelheim Flame not doing too much for me here since I can't destroy all of opponent's creatures with it. No attacks. But at least opponent can't transform Kren here. Lionheart doesn't do anything because it's only 2 damage. Although I guess I can attack and then kill something with Lionheart. Will definitely bin those. And I don't want to sacrifice anything to Sephiroth. Namazu Trader at least has a decent attack since the only good block against it is the Weaver. Opponent might suspect I've got a combat trick. Which I think would be good in a deck with Lock Treasure Hunter, since you want to be attacking with Lock. But since this deck is made up of only cards from the Final Fantasy set, there aren't that many combat tricks. I don't remember even seeing it in the deck list. Opponent timing out here, a little surprising, considering they're in pretty good shape, I would have to say. Maybe opponent's disconnected. That would be too bad. Because we're not getting a true sense of the deck's strengths and weaknesses if the opponent's disconnecting here. But I will say, if opponent times out and we win, I will say, so far, the deck hasn't looked too impressive. Alright, so Lionheart's not doing anything, so we'll just play Queen Bronne. Queen Bronne looking pretty bad, since I don't want to play Lionheart before combat. Yeah, it looks like opponent disconnected here. That's too bad. Anyway, so based on what we've seen, I don't know if the lock deck's been built optimally. Alright. Well, we'll try another game and see how that goes. On we go. On the play. 4 lands is a bit much, but at least we can curve out 2-drop into lock into 2 drops on turn 4. And I've gotten equipment to go with the item shopkeep. We'll try this. And since we're on the play, Prompto with haste might be able to get in a hit or two. Facing Toph, the first metal vendor. So hopefully we don't get Mindslaver comboed out here. That was an interesting introduction to that pet. We draw another land. We'll hit for 2. If we're lucky, opponent will be off to a slow start. Tap land. Good to see. Firion. Furion might be better than Locke here, because I've got an equipment coming up. We'll hit for 2 and play Furion. Heraldic Banner. Alright, some removal, that's nice. Alright, opponent's down to 12. Plays Toph. Draw land. Well, I think it's overkill Toph attack. How much damage are we doing here? 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10. So not lethal, but pretty close to. And that's enough for opponent. Alright, so that was the Locke deck. Let's take another look at the deck list. Alright, so that was the last of the 3 pre-constructed Brawl decks. So I will say, I think they were all limited in the fact that they were all playing only cards from the Final Fantasy set. Except in the mana base, where they had some pretty decent dual lands. Very few utility lands, which was interesting. So mostly basics. So the mana base was pretty good. But I think overall, I would say that the problem with these Foundations decks is that since they're entirely cards from only one set, there's not enough synergy or power. So I think unless basically you want to, if you've got a lot of the Final Fantasy cards and you can spend some gems getting some of the new Final Fantasy commander cards like Locke or where are we here? Yuffie, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't say that these decks are particularly worth spending gems on if you haven't already got a lot of the Final Fantasy cards. So you should probably save your gems for different Brawl decks that are constructed differently with a greater variety of cards. Alright, so that will do it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Do please like and subscribe. If you'd like to see some other Final Fantasy commanders or commanders from maybe the Avatar set, let me know in the comments. And have a good one. Bye.